It's Eileen.
It's Eileen.
Thank you so much, Eileen, for talking to us. And could you just, to start off, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, where you live, what parish you worship in, family situation and work.
We've lived in Radlett for 25 years, and I truly believe that God led us to Radlett. And after a few years there, I was helping out with family services, and I was asked to help in a more formal way, and from that eventually became me becoming a reader.
Okay.
I have a husband and 3 children who've supported me all the way through, but it's been very difficult working full time and bringing up a family as well as doing all the reader training.
How many years have you been a reader?
4 years official reader, but it took me 7 years to train. And I'm licensed to a team ministry which has 4 churches, so I could pop up anywhere leading any sort of service, which is quite a challenge.
I have one particular question about you being licensed to a team ministry. When I was accepted for reader training, I just needed 1 PCC to sign me off. Did you have that? Do you remember?
Possibly the team ministry was formed while I was training.
Oh, maybe that was how you got away with it. No, it's just that I spoke to a reader who, because she was in a team, had to have permission from not less than 3 or 4 PCCs because of the whole team ministry.
Oh,
and that's
right.
why
No,
she was
there was nothing as
nothing
formal
as
as that.
complicated as that. Right, that's a relief. Okay, just taking you right back to. You didn't tell us about your work. Where did you work?
I work at Holywell Lodge. I've been here for 22 years. And again, I believe God brought me to work here. I'd always had this nagging feeling at the back of my mind that God wanted me to do something other than just go to church. And I started work here part-time when our youngest went to school. But there was still that nagging feeling that God had more in store for me. And now that I've become a reader, that nagging has stopped.
Well, that's a nice feeling. So, what do you do here?
I'm part of the schools team. I'm the chief administrator.
Okay.
But I started off in stewardship.
Okay, so you've done more than one job here.
Yes.
Okay.
And working with stewardship certainly helped develop my faith.
Because?
Of working with one particular stewardship advisor who was quite an evangelical, and he made me see things I hadn't seen before.
Okay. We're going to take you right back now. Do you remember the first time you ever met a lay reader and what you thought of them?
That's a difficult one to remember, but we have 3 elderly lay readers in our parish who've always seemed elderly, and they were a little remote perhaps, but then there were 2 younger women about my own age who were fun, and they seemed knowledgeable and quite holy, if that's not a strange thing to say. And they both went on to ordained ministry, and they were a tangible face of lay leadership. And then I had a close friend who also became a reader a little after them, and it was her who inspired me to become a reader, because she was enthusing to me about what she'd done in her training, and it was like a light bulb coming on in my head, and I thought, I would really enjoy that too. Perhaps that's what I ought to do. Okay,
so the training's a carrot, sounds like, to get you involved. Okay. So, can you explain a little bit about the path, about how you thought, what you've just described? That sounds wonderful, but what was the experience of actually wanting to become a reader yourself?
A longing for more knowledge, I think. I've discovered recently on a preaching course that I'm an academic through and through, and that's one of the attractions of being a reader, that I learn as I teach others. And it just never stops. So Kathy enthused me, and I discussed it with our curate and the vicar and our deanery advisor and a colleague at work who was a reader, and then I went for an interview, which was a terrifying experience.
Why is that?
I wasn't forewarned of what was going to happen, and I just didn't feel prepared for it, and we were asked some very deep and searching questions, and I really felt I made a complete mess of the whole thing, and I cried all the way home. It was a very emotional time.
Okay. And thinking back on the training you received, now you're a reader, what do you most appreciate about it?
The laid-back nature of it. I was part of Dick Lewis's regime, which is why it took me 7 years to get through it.
Yes.
And I think the training now is a lot more thorough.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I'd have survived if I'd had to do 3 years, bang, bang, bang. Life happens. I was bringing up a young family, our daughter got married, my mother died, and I just needed to take things at my own pace.
So that kind of relaxed way of doing things worked for you?
It did.
Okay.
But then it was a drawback because there was a lack of incentive to get on and do things.
I remember it well. What's the favourite thing that you enjoy doing as a reader?
Drawing up service orders for the odd, the unusual type of service, not your standard Eucharist, but for a special occasion, be it Maundy Thursday foot washing or a harvest service, something that I can be more creative with, and it gives a wide freedom in the various resources we can use within worship.
Okay. And is there one thing that if you had to give it up, you would miss?
I think it's the learning. Every time I do reading round a subject for preaching or services, I learn so much more. And I just feel I'm bursting with knowledge, and I just want to impart it to other people to help them understand as well.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, readers do lots of things, and we've already heard actually from some of the interviews just actually how diverse reader ministry can be. What would you say is the most distinctive aspect of reader ministry for you?
It might sound a bit pretentious to say this, but being a facilitator and an enabler of helping people understand the Word of God and the significance of various things in the Bible, and helping people worship in a way they find conducive to their churchmanship.
Okay. Now, one question I've asked of Lynn, actually, because she also works here. Working as you do here in Holywell Lodge, you must have a stream of clergy coming in and out, and sometimes readers coming in and out. So you've got more experience of clergy than many would, and you've got, hopefully, maybe more experience of readers than many would. What would you say is the most distinctive thing about readers compared with what readers bring to ministry compared with clergy?
It's their contact with the wider world, because they will have a vast range of experience with all sorts of people. And clergy are possibly within a smaller circle. So it's that contact with ordinary people.
Okay. Did you have any questions?
No, I don't. Do you work with Fiona then? Fiona Holiday?
Yes.
Because she trained with me, so
Right,
we're
yes.
contemporaries in that respect.
Yes.
So, no, I think you're absolutely right. It is the fact that readers are more of the people, aren't we? You
Yes.
know, and we're out there more than the clergy are. But no, I think it's
That's
fine. Thank you.
We've got lots of attitude. I think that's the other thing I noticed about readers. Someone goes, no, don't do this. I mean, you know, that's why it was interesting your answer to the question, what would you most miss as well? Because of, I'm just take a few pictures of it as well. Can you explain what you do? I mean, you know, of the jobs you do as a reader, what sort of things you do within the parish which relate to that?
Because I work full time, I'm not able to take part in the ministering to people quite so much. So I tend to stick to preaching and organising and leading services.
Okay.
But I've led a prayer course and speak on one of the Alpha courses as well.
Lots.
It takes up a lot of time. I don't watch much telly.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate it.